Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is New York City and Jew hatred there, especially the parallel that people make between Berlin in 1933 and New York City in 2026. New York today is not Berlin in 1933. It is not. The fear is real, the threats are real, nasty, vicious, and sometimes accompanied by acts of physical violence. Jewish reactions are natural, normal, neither exaggerated nor contrived. New York's Jews are reacting to real incidents of real hostility and to real unadulterated fear, and the permissive attitudes of a burgeoning number of city leaders, men and women elected to serve the public or appointed, are setting the tone. New York's leadership, principally Mayor Zohran Mamdani, has let the situation fester and spread by hedging his responses to attacks against Jews by speaking in universalities. When a Jewish institution, synagogue, person is attacked, he speaks about all hatred. Mamdani calls all hatred bad. Mamdani speaks about condemning all hatred, but never voices condemnation against the Jew haters specifically. He can't. Mamdani sets a tone, and all else follows. New York City is exhibiting a serious failure in public safety and civic leadership. It's not only the Jewish population who will pay the price of Democratic Socialists of America and their fans. The entire city is at risk should their promises of defunding police and abolishing prisons ever be put into place. An attack against Jews in the synagogue is couched in terms of all citizens in New York deserving of safety. Any hatred and all attacks that target groups is wrong, he implies. Separating out anyone because of their religion is wrong, he continues. Attacks against churches, synagogues, and mosques, he says, are all wrong. He intones this. He has a broken record, playing an intentionally flawed song. And yet, New York today is still not Berlin in the 1930s. Large swaths of the Jewish community in New York are afraid because the threats are real. The democracy is failing to protect them. A minority that is being openly targeted, about 10% of the city. It is not a trivial matter. I know too many elderly Jews who do not venture outside their homes after dark. Too many who have tucked their Star of David necklaces inside their shirts. Too many who have stopped wearing their treasured necklaces with the Hebrew names of their grandchildren displayed when they go outside. And too many men and boys who now cover their kippot with hats and caps, even bikers' helmets. And yet, New York today is still not Berlin in the 1930s. The answer is not to panic, not to make theatrical comparisons to the rise of Nazism. We're not there. The answer is to make the city safe for Jews and for the Jewish community. The answer is to provide a safe environment for Jews. Jews who reside in New York and Jews who reside and visit New York. Safe for all Jews. The Berlin parallel does not work because despite the Democratic Socialists of America's stance on Israel, is because of the law of the land. That's what keeps Jews safe. The laws of the United States and even the laws of New York have not been turned against the Jew as they were in Germany. There might be people in power who hate Jews. I'll admit that. But democracy and the power of the democratic protections are in place. Not just still in place, they are in solid place. Even if sometimes ignored and hedged. The strong media presence in the United States, both traditional and new media, play a huge role in the lives of New Yorkers. The media is part of the debate, and that media holds leadership to account. It holds their feet to the flames, to the fire. Germany in the 1930s began instituting anti-Jewish laws. They removed Jews from professions. They pushed Jewish children to the back of the classrooms, in universities also, and then removed the students and the professors from the universities. Germany required businesses, Jewish businesses, to label themselves as being Jewish. None of this can happen in the United States. None of it. None of it under Mamdani, none of it, period. They talk about education as the answer to this plague of Jew hatred. It's a popular answer. I hear it all the time, but it lacks a true understanding of this Jew hatred. Although education is a principle vitally important, those who hate Jews today have internalized their hatred. Changing them would mean deprogramming them, not education. Education can influence only those who are undecided. It will never convince a true Jew hater. That is why converts, people who like the son of Hamas, who now defend Jews and criticize their heritage, become heroes in the Jewish community. That is why they have targets on their backs by their former friends and their families. A meaningful response must be accompanied by increased visible protection. It must have credible follow-through against the threats. It must combine security, police, public messaging, media coverage, partnership with other communities and civic leadership up and down the line, not only in the office of the mayor. It requires immediate responses to attacks, and then investigations and prosecutions. Jews need to attend these trials and speak to the court before sentencing on behalf of the Jewish community. Reassurances, slogans are too easy and so empty. The evil Jew haters will not stop on their own. They must be stopped. When that is successfully accomplished, when, not if, it is accomplished, Jews will feel safer. It'll be obvious. There will be fewer incidents, real and reported incidents of Jew hatred. It is as simple as that, because New York City today is not Berlin in the 1930s. Coming up next, points of view. First up is a column from the Jerusalem Post that was published on July 2nd, 2026. It is an editorial, which means it is a collective, agreed-upon decision of the editorial board, where one member drafts the editorial and then shows the draft to the board before it goes into the paper or posted online on the website. This is the title: Democratic Party Drift. Primary victories show anti-Israel left is no longer fringe. Editorial. This is how the editorial board begins. Many Republicans initially dismissed the Tea Party as a passing fringe phenomenon. Democrats should not make the same mistake. Who would have thought that we would ever be looking back nostalgically on the days when the anti-Israel squad in the US Congress numbered only 4 people? Yet following recent primaries in Pennsylvania, New York, and now Colorado, a squad of only 4 is beginning to look like the good old days. On Tuesday, voters in Denver, a deep blue city, ousted 15-term mainstream Democrat Diane DeGette in favor of a 29-year-old Melat Kiros, yet another Zohar Mamdani-style Democratic socialist. Kiros, whose family immigrated to Colorado from Ethiopia when she was a baby, was fired from her law firm in 2023 after publishing an open letter arguing that student protests, calls for the elimination of Israel, should not be conflated with anti-Semitism, and that October 7th massacre needed to be contextualized because throughout history, the occupied have resisted with violence. The candidate is simply unreal to listen to her answer to a simple question about the murder of the Jews in Boulder, Colorado. She also refused to, in a televised interview, to say the deadly firebombing attack in Boulder, Colorado, that led to the death of the 82-year-old Karen Diamond was an anti-Semitic attack. I don't know what was in the heart of the perpetrator, she said. Never mind that the attacker, Mohammed Sarbi Soliman, who was serving a life sentence, yelled "Free Palestine" as he hurled homemade bombs, firebombs, at the group gathered in support of the hostages in Gaza. Or that he reportedly told investigators he was driven by a desire to kill all Zionist people. I must say, to understand that the DSA candidates are not yet going to topple the establishment is very important. But they are making inroads. There's no question about it. The editorial continues. But that misses the point. The Bernie Sanders Mamdani wing of the Democratic Party may not be capable of winning nationally, but it is steadily expanding its influence within the party. Some have compared the DSA to the Tea Party, which bursts onto the political scene in 2009 and challenged the Republican establishment. The comparison is not exact, but it is instructive. And, like the Tea Party, it employs ideological purity tests. For the Tea Party, the defining issues were taxes and the size of government. For today's Democratic left, the positions on Israel have become an increasingly important litmus test. Democrats should not make the same mistake. Editors conclude, writing, how dangerous and damaging this movement of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, is for bipartisan U.S.-Israel relationship, which is the backbone of the relationship with Israel. They continue, whether the DSA ultimately succeeds in taking over the Democratic Party is almost beside the point. It is already changing the party's priorities, changing how Democratic politicians approach Israel, and changing the tenor of the debate surrounding Israel. Those who care about preserving the bipartisan foundation of the U.S.-Israel relationship cannot simply assume this trend will burn itself out. Political movements that keep winning primaries are rarely defeated by wishful thinking. They are defeated at the ballot box only when they are taken seriously, actively organized against, and vigorously challenged. I must say there is no doubt that the DSA phenomenon is very scary. Thank you, Jerusalem Post editors, for giving us your insight. Next up is a column from YNAB published on July 1st, 2026. It was written by Yossi Yehoshua. It's entitled, Not Just Money, Israel's Defense Chief Warns of Another October 7th Disaster. Subtitled, Analysis. This is no longer just a budget fight. Delaying force buildup and real draft solution risks, leaving Israel short of soldiers, short of weapons, and dangerously unprepared again. This is how Yossi Yehoshua begins. It's worth listening carefully to the warning issued by Defense Ministry Director General, Major General Reserve, Amir Bar-Am, when he says that Israel's military buildup is dangerously behind Iran. This is not just another statement made in the context of budget talks. It is a professional warning from the person responsible for the force buildup of the IDF and the defense establishment after nearly 1,000 days of fighting. Bar-Am cannot publicly detail the full picture of the operational gaps. Much of the information is classified, and the enemy is listening to every word. Precisely because of that, the fact that he chose to warn publicly about the lag in force buildup should set off alarms among decision makers. Bar-Am is warning against any reduction in the roughly 40 billion shekels, that's $12 billion, that is supposed to be added to the base of the defense budget. This money is meant to replenish interceptor and offensive munition stocks, expand intelligence capabilities, restore formations eroded across the ground forces, air and navy, and ensure the IDF's operational continuity. Now, this is important because the most important part of the essay Yossi Yehoshua now announces, and he says that it is essential not to make the same mistakes that led to October 7th. You have to stop that. He writes, we must not repeat the mistakes of the past. We must not again arrive unprepared as we did on October 7th, he warned. But force buildup does not depend only on budgets and weapons. It also depends on the most important resource of all, manpower. Here too, the defense establishment warnings are becoming more severe. The draft issue is no longer only a moral question of sharing the burden. It has become a first-order security, operational, and economic issue. The less the circle of those who serve expands, the greater the dependence on the reserves becomes. And the cost to the economy and the state budget continues to rise. It's essential to note that Yossi Yehoshua explains that without a resolution, the burden will fall again on the reservists. That they will be very difficult for the whole country as a result of that. He writes, after October 7th, the swords of iron war and the direct campaign against Iran, the threats have only expanded. Israel is required to maintain significant forces in several arenas at once, replenish stockpiles, build new capabilities, and ensure operational continuity. All of this requires both money and manpower. The meaning is clear. Without a real resolution to the draft crisis, the burden on the reserves will only grow, and with it, the cost to the defense budget and the entire economy. In conclusion, Yossi Yehoshua writes, and this is powerful, because without it, we're going to make the same mistakes again. He writes, he added that Israel needed not only advanced technological capabilities, but also a critical mass of force in both quality and quantity. At the time, some saw it as a theoretical warning. 4 years later, it's hard not to understand how accurate it was. That is why any attempt to cut the budget, increase, or once again postpone a decision on the draft issue would be far more than a budgetary or political decision. It would be a security decision. The central lesson of October 7th is that the price of ignoring professional warnings is far higher than the price of making decisions on time. When Bar'am warns of a dangerous lag in the force buildup, and when the IDF warns of worsening manpower shortage, this is not a demand for more money. It is a wake-up call to a country that must not repeat the mistake for which it already has paid such a heavy price. Sadly, this is a very important call to change and prepare for the absolute worst. Israel must get it together. Yossi Yehoshua, thank you so very much for this insightful column. Coming up next, commentary through cartoons, where pictures tell the story. I want to show you 8 cartoons today, and they're funny, but they're very biting also. First up is a cartoon entitled, Remind Me Again, What is a Successful Mission? The US rocket is going straight into the sun, meaning the Iranian plan will burn up. Is it inevitable? According to the cartoonist, it is, but I'm not certain it is inevitable. Next up is the white flag, and on it is the Memorandum of Understanding for a peace deal with Iran. Trust me, Trump says, you don't want to see the rest of the text. That's scary. The cartoonist is saying that here are many secrets in the agreement that we do not know and we do not want to know. And if we did know, we would be very upset about the Memorandum of Understanding. This third cartoon has the Ayatollah winning. The text reads, Make Iran great again. Iran deal. What do you know? I'm getting tired of winning, the text says. This is not so clear to me. I'm not certain that they're winning, but the cartoonist is certainly thinking that. This next one is peace deal, MOU, 300 billion, and IOU. The cartoonist plays a game of abbreviations, IOU and MOU. The Ayatollah and Trump are holding the cards. It's very funny. In this cartoon, Bibi is in the middle. Trump and Ayatollah are on opposite sides, and they're kicking a soccer ball around like the World Cup. Only it's a globe of the world. Bibi says in the middle, this is no longer a game. The point is obvious, that Bibi is taking the game very seriously. Trump and the Ayatollah might not be. This cartoon is called When Two Fascists Fight Terrorists Rejoice. They are shouting at one another, and the Ayatollah is singing a happy song. He's happy as a hog. The Amazing Iran Deal is the next one. He sings, he dances, no, really, croak. The cartoon depicts Vice President J.D. Vance as the master of ceremonies at a circus, aka the ringmaster. He's introducing a singing frog that can only croak. The pun is, croak also means to die. This final cartoon today is a classic. It is a turn of an expression. The question is asked and answered. When it came down to the war in Iran, was there ever a just cause? Absolutely. We attacked Iran just cause. It is funny, but who knows if it is true. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesman, Majid al-Ansari, addressed the negotiations between the US and Iran, stating that mediators from Qatar and Pakistan concluded separate meetings in Doha with negotiation teams from the United States and Iran, achieving positive progress on issues related to the Memorandum of Understanding signed in Islamabad. According to him, the parties agreed to continue discussions in the near future after setting a date as soon as possible, following the conclusion of Ali Khamenei's funeral ceremonies. Tavol the operator of the Dan metropolitan area's Red Line, the light trail line, announced that throughout the summer break, operating hours will be extended on Thursday nights. According to the announcement, every Thursday in July and August, the Red Line will operate until 2 a.m. This is a perfect example of how life continues and goes on despite the threats from Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. Thursday night is a party night in Israel. It is also the night when people travel to their Shabbat destinations, their families and friends. So extending until 2 a.m. is really good. The Knesset approved its reading of the first basic law for Torah study, which establishes the value of Torah study and will be anchored as a fundamental value. The vote began only after the arrival of Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, and the law passed with a majority of 63 in favor, 53 against. The coalition Knesset members, Moshe Solomon, Dan Iluz, and Yuli Edelstein, opposed. Naftali Bennett, leader of Yachad, wrote on X that immediately upon forming a new government, we will repeal the Torah disgraced basic law that he was just talking about. The law will disappear, but the mark of shame on the miserable Knesset members who supported this will remain. Gadi Eisenkot, leader of Yashar, with Eisenkot wrote, the attempt to turn draft evasion into a basic law is a direct blow to our national backbone. At the time when the burden of those serving is breaking records and the price of pay is unbearable, the coalition chooses to create a bypass route for draft evasion. Torah study is an important value in the state of Israel, but it cannot serve as a political cover for abandoning the mission of defending the state. Those who voted tonight in favor of the draft evasion basic law prefer the government's survival over the resilience of the IDF and Israeli society. United Torah Judaism faction chairman Uri Maklev said that approving the bill is necessary, significant step towards restoring the proper status of Torah scholars. The opposition to the law is based on populism, slander, and incitement against Torah scholars. The state has no right to exist without the Torah. Degel HaTorah chair Moshe Gafni said that the state of the Jewish people is restoring the honor of the Torah to its rightful place. Shas chair Aryeh Deri said, after the approval of the basic law Torah study in the first reading, that tonight we have elevated the honor of Torah. The approval in this first reading of the basic law Torah study, which the Shas movement led with determination, is beginning of historic correction and the recognition by the state of Israel of supreme value of the Torah and the status of the Torah scholars, who carry on their shoulders the spiritual existence of the people of Israel. With God's help, we will continue until the completion of legislation in the second and third readings in order to anchor once and for all the status of Torah study and the honor due to its students. The Board of Trustees of the Jewish Agency publicly criticized the Israeli government following the advancement of the two bills seeking to impose prison sentences for egalitarian prayer at the Western Wall Plaza in Jerusalem, and to invalidate non-Orthodox conversions for immigration purposes. According to the Board of Trustees, both proposals harm diaspora Jewry. These bills could undermine Jewish pluralism and weaken the Jewish people. It was stated, Toronto police in Canada arrested Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, a 58-year-old man, on suspicion of throwing stones at a Jewish man on the street, shouting anti-Israel slogans at him and threatening to kill him. According to local police, the attack was carried out without provocation from the victim, who was targeted due to his religious attire. He was slightly injured. The incident is being investigated as a suspected hate crime. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquante piece of information. This clip is of Robert Kraft speaking to Israeli orphans in Milford at the Chabad there. He speaks about the Shema, about his father, about creating the blue square. If you do not know, Kraft owns the New England Patriots. He is a major philanthropist, to Jewish causes especially. He created the foundation to combat anti-Semitism, and the Blue Square Alliance against hate, all hate. He's worth about $14 billion. Watch this piece.
אין לי הזדמנות לדבר עברית, so I will speak in English.
Yeah.
But, and just reciting the Shema. I grew up in a traditional home. My father was a man of faith and spirituality, and he taught me, and I've done it my whole life. Every night before I go to sleep, I say the Shema and speak to the Lord and ask Him to do things that I think are important, and that's a foundation of our faith. This is a busy time for us. I wanted to come and meet all of you because I understand that every one of you lost at least one relative or a parent in that horrible day of October 7th and what ensued afterwards. And I want you to know that people care. We care. And one of the ways I've run my life is Ain Ra Believe Told. There's no bad that happens in life that doesn't have good if you manage it in the right way. And also Ein Davar Omed Lifnei HaRatzon. And that's the history of our people. And all of you, I see this young man who lost his dad at the age of 38 before he was bar mitzvahed, and I see a ruach and koach in him that it actually inspires me, and all of you do, because of going through something that most of us in America couldn't believe. And I want you to all know that's the reason 6 years ago when I was lucky enough to get the Genesis Prize, and it came with $1 million, I decided to start a foundation to stop all hate. This blue square is a symbol of that we want people arm in arm working together, and that's the whole spirit of it.
Unbelievable. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.